The Japanese were coming for revenge. They wanted Li Yunlong's head, and they had found us at the garment factory. Boom, boom, boom. Mortar shells slammed into the ground, tearing through the air with a deafening roar. A dozen logistics workers were tossed into the air like rag dolls, blown apart before they even knew what hit them. Then came the chatter. For Type 92 heavy machine guns opened up from different directions, crisscrossing the factory grounds with a lethal web of lead. Kill! Kill them all! A Japanese officer screamed, waving his katana frantically. Bullets and shells rained down like a summer storm. The Japs are here. Get down. Cover. An old soldier tried to make a run for it. He didn't make it 5 steps before a burst of machine gun fire stitched across his chest, turning him into a bloody sieve. His blood sprayed across the dusty ground. I crouched behind a crumbling brick wall, my eyes burning with rage. I couldn't believe it. This garment factory was deep in the rear of our base area. How did the Japanese find us here? I peeked over the edge of the wall. The horizon was crawling with mustard-colored uniforms. They had moved fast. We were already surrounded, and we only had 2 platoons to hold them off. How were we supposed to fight our way out of this? Suddenly, a crisp, mechanical voice rang out in my head. Ding! Strong battle intent detected from the host. Super kill system is now online. I froze. Then, a wave of pure joy washed over me. I had been in this world for half a month, waiting for this moment. I had almost given up hope, thinking I'd have to survive this war on my own. I guess the system only wakes up when the lead starts flying. Ding! Integration complete. Distributing starter gift pack. Ding! Congratulations. You have received 20 Kar 98K rifles with 1,000 rounds of ammo. For Czech ZB, 26 light machine guns with 1,000 rounds. 2 Maxim heavy machine guns with 20,000 rounds. 1 mortar with 60 shells. For 100 stick grenades. 100 pounds of pork, 100 pounds of beef, 200 pounds of rice, 200 pounds of flour, and 100 pounds of canned goods. Ding! Congratulations. You have received Gene Strengthening Solution. Physical attributes will be fully enhanced upon injection. Ding! Congratulations. You have received Personal Storage Space. All items can be stored within. Ding! Congratulations. You have received God-level Weapon Mastery, Beginner, and Eagle Eye ability. Can lock onto targets within 1,000 meters. A cold sensation flooded my veins. Before I could even process what was happening, the liquid surged through my body. It felt like a dozen volcanoes were erupting under my skin. My blood pumped faster, my bones cracked and shifted, and my muscles swelled until they felt like coiled steel. When the sensation faded, I took a deep breath and squeezed my fist. I felt like I could punch a hole through a tank. I focused my vision, and the eagle eye kicked in. I could see the individual whiskers on a Japanese soldier's face over half a mile away. This system was the real deal. I reached into my mental storage and pulled out a Czech ZB-26 light machine gun. It felt perfect in my hands. Who needs a bolt-action rifle when you have this much firepower? Lin Feng, over here. My platoon leader, Luo Deju, was shouting for me. I had to put my new toys away for a second and ran over to join the group. The 2 platoons Li Yunlong had brought with him and the factory's original security platoon were all gathered. Li Yunlong was standing in the center, looking more excited than a kid on New Year's Eve. I can't believe it. Li Yunlong barked, a wild grin on his face. Old Li is stuck here sewing clothes, and the Japs deliver themselves right to my door. Even God knows I'm a fighter. He sent these bastards here just for me to kill. He pointed toward a ridge on the right. Listen up. We're charging that high ground. We hit them from above, and we'll cut right through their center. You security boys might not be my regular troops, but as long as you're under my command, you better have some damn backbone. If I see anyone turn tail, I'll shoot you myself. Luo Daju looked worried. Commander, these Japs look like elites. We're outnumbered, and we need to cover the factory's retreat. If we charge, won't the factory be exposed? Li Yunlong glared at him. Daju, are you really one of my men? Back at Sonyun Ridge, we charged a whole regiment with just 1 company. Look around. There's maybe 1,000 of them at most. 1 battalion. You're scared of that. He spat on the ground. By charging, we draw their fire. That gives the factory a chance to slip away. It's a distraction. Besides, I love fighting elites. If you're scared, go hide with the logistics crew. The brave win on a narrow path. Li Yunlong roared. When you meet the enemy, you draw your sword. There is no retreat in my dictionary. Yes, sir, the men shouted back. I watched him with genuine respect. Old Li was exactly like the legends, fearless and stubborn. That was the spirit of a true soldier. Boom, boom. More shells landed in the courtyard. The Japanese were closing in. Deputy manager, Li Yunlong shouted. Take the workers and get out of here now. The rest of you, follow me. Just as he was about to lead the charge, a man grabbed his arm. It was the deputy manager of the factory, looking pale but determined. What the hell are you doing? Li Yunlong barked. Get moving. We don't have time. Commander, headquarters just radioed, the deputy manager cried out. They ordered you to protect our retreat. You are strictly forbidden from charging. The higher-ups said, if you dare to charge, they'll have your head. The whole area went silent. Li Yunlong's eyes bugged out. Don't talk nonsense. How could headquarters know what I'm doing? I'm not lying, the deputy manager insisted. The brigade commander said it himself. He said he knew exactly what that brat Li Yunlong would try to do. He told me to tell you. If you try a frontal assault, he'll personally chop your head off. I sighed. The brigade commander really did know Li Yunlong better than anyone. Commander, Luo Dezhu asked tentatively. Do we still charge? Charge what? The deputy manager yelled. Commander, please. You know how important this factory is. Everyone is counting on these uniforms to survive the winter. We can die, but the machines and the cotton must get out. You aren't a frontline colonel right now. You're the factory manager. Your job is our safety. The security platoon leader nodded. He's right, sir. The brigade commander doesn't make empty threats. He'll really do it. Li Yunlong's face turned purple. He had been stuck sewing for weeks, bored out of his mind. Now, a mountain of meat was right in front of him, and he wasn't allowed to take a bite. It was pure torture. Li Yunlong looked like a man watching a feast he wasn't allowed to touch. He wasn't afraid of dying, but the deputy manager's words hit home. Tens of thousands of our brothers were counting on those winter uniforms. If the machines were destroyed, the army would freeze. He had to do his job. Damn it! Li Yunlong's eyes were bloodshot. He slammed his fist into the dirt. Retreat. Everyone, head east immediately. Move. We're linking up with the main force. That's the spirit, the deputy manager cried out, relieved. Let's get moving. Li Yunlong glared at him as he started walking. Listen up, kid. I'll escort you guys for 20 li. Once you're safe, don't you dare try to stop me again. These Japs think they can just stroll in here? If I don't kill them, I can't face the brothers they just blew up. The deputy manager saw the fury in Li Yunlong's eyes and kept his mouth shut. He knew that once they were 20 li away, they'd be close to the main army. Even if Li Yunlong doubled back to fight then, the danger would be much lower. Withdraw. Fast. Everyone to the east. Just then, a hail of bullets swept through the yard. Several logistics workers loading supplies were riddled with holes before they could even scream. They collapsed into pools of blood. Enemy contact. I warned. I dove to the ground. My eagle eye ability kicked in instantly, locking onto 6 Japanese soldiers about 100 meters away. The moment my hand touched my rifle, it felt like an extension of my own body. I didn't hesitate. I squeezed the trigger. Asterisk bang. 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 Asterisk. A short, controlled burst. 4 of the Japanese soldiers had their heads blown apart simultaneously. The remaining 2 scrambled for cover, diving toward a light machine gun, but I didn't give them the chance. I adjusted my aim slightly, my eagle eye tracking their movement trajectories with terrifying precision. Within 1,000 meters, I could hit anything I looked at. 2 more shots rang out. The soldiers hadn't even touched their machine gun before their heads shattered. The force of the bullets flipped them backward, spraying blood across the dirt. I let out a small breath and smiled. This eagle eye ability was incredible. It was like having a high-powered scope built into my brain. Nearby, Li Yunlong and the others were staring at me, their mouths hanging open. Luo Dezhu, is this one of your men? Li Yunlong stammered, his eyes wide. Since when is he this good? Luo Dezhu looked just as shocked. Commander, I had no idea. I've never seen him shoot like that. Mortar shells began raining down again. The factory yard turned into a sea of fire. More logistics workers were tossed into the air by the blasts. Suddenly, a crisp notification rang in my head. Asterisk ding. First kill confirmed. Reward: 20 Type 98K rifles, 1,000 rounds of ammunition, 1 mortar with 50 shells, and 100 cans of beef. All items stored in the portable warehouse. Asterisk ding. New mission detected. Asterisk. I grinned. A mission already? Perfect. The more weapons and skills I got, the less likely these invaders were to leave this place alive. Asterisk ding. Mission: kill 200 enemies. Reward: massive bonus upon completion. Asterisk. 200? With my current skills and a warehouse full of ammo, that was nothing. Commander! I turned and shouted to Li Yunlong. The Japs are closing in. I'll stay behind and cover the retreat. Go. Li Yunlong looked at me like I was crazy. You? Covering us alone? I don't miss, I said simply. He couldn't argue with that. I'd just popped 6 heads in seconds. I'll hold them off for a few minutes. I continued urgently. Then I'll retreat and meet up with you. It'll give the transport teams the head start they need. Li Yunlong looked at the approaching enemy and then at the piles of supplies that still needed moving. We needed time. Luo Daju. Here, sir. He's your soldier, Li Yunlong barked. Take a squad and stay with him. We don't abandon our own, and we sure as hell don't leave a man to fight a lone war. Luo Daju saluted sharply. Yes, sir. Mission accepted. He turned to 10 of his men and nodded toward the perimeter. Let's go. Hey, kid. What's your name? Li Yunlong shouted after me. Lin Feng. I yelled back. Li Yunlong nodded, his expression grim but respectful. All right, Lin Feng. I'll remember that. You lot better come back in one piece. When this is over, the sweet potato wine is on me. Yes, sir, we shouted in unison. As we charged toward the defensive line, Li Yunlong turned back to his men, screaming at them to hurry the loading. If we got surrounded before the supplies were out, we were all dead. Meanwhile, at headquarters, the commander-in-chief slammed his fist onto a map. Where the hell did these Japanese troops come from? How did they get right on top of the factory? It's the Watanabe Battalion, the chief of staff explained. They were supposed to be hunting a local guerrilla unit, but they must have stumbled into this area by mistake. Everything depends on that factory for the winter, the commander roared. And I sent Li Yunlong there to be the manager. That brat better not lose his head and do something stupid. The brigade commander already called him, the chief of staff replied. He gave him strict orders to retreat and avoid a frontal assault. Safety of the factory is the priority. The commander's face remained dark. Not enough. Contact him again. Tell him if he messes this up, I won't just take his head, I'll strip him of his rank. And get every nearby unit moving. If this Watanabe Battalion wants to dive this deep into our territory, then they aren't leaving. Wipe them out. About 15 li away, in a small town, Colonel Chu Yunfly of the 358th Regiment stood on a ridge with his binoculars. Where did these Japs come from? Chu Yunfly asked, frowning. This is deep in the hinterlands between us and the 8th Route Army. They likely slipped through the gaps in our lines, sir. His aide, Feng Ligong, replied. It's just a single battalion, so they're harder to track. Another officer, Sun Ming, spoke up. Colonel, it looks like they're hitting the 8th Route supply factory. I heard Li Yunlong, the man who took out the Sakata colonel at Songyun Ridge, is the manager there now. Do you think they're after him? Chu Yunfly nodded slowly. It's possible. Wiping out the Sakata headquarters and breaking their encirclement was a huge embarrassment for the Japanese. It makes sense they'd want revenge. Suddenly, Chu Yunfly straightened up. Pass down the order. Artillery battery, prepare to fire. 1st and 2nd battalions, prepare for combat. Feng Ligong gasped. Sir, we're intervening. I couldn't help them last time, Chu Yunfly said, his voice cold and determined. But I won't stand by this time. That factory doesn't have the manpower to survive a siege. We are the closest unit. I won't let a commander like Li Yunlong die at the hands of these invaders. It would be a loss for the country and a disgrace to us all. Execute the order. Yes, sir. I watched through my binoculars as Major Watanabe scanned the prisoner camp. A scout scrambled up to him, panting. He confirmed it. This was an 8th Route Army camp, and rumor had it that Li Yunlong, the man who killed Colonel Sakata, was right here. Watanabe's face lit up with pure greed. Ever since the Sakata incident, The Japanese High Command had put a massive bounty on Li Yunlong's head, 10,000 silver coins and a 2-rank promotion. Watanabe laughed like he'd already won the lottery. He thought the gods were smiling on him. He immediately ordered his men to send a telegram claiming he'd cornered Li Yunlong and requested reinforcements to block any escape. He split his forces to encircle us, treating Li Yunlong like a golden prize waiting to be claimed. Meanwhile, Luo Daju and I had already slipped out of the camp and reached the Japanese flank. Luo Daju was about to give an order when I cut in. Platoon leader, you take the men and attack from the left to draw them out. I'll circle around to the right and hit them alone. Luo Daju stared at me like I'd lost my mind. Am I the platoon leader, or are you? He snapped at me to follow his lead, but I didn't back down. I explained that we didn't have enough men or ammo for a head-on fight. If the Japanese brought up their mortars, we'd be dead in 3 minutes. We needed a distraction so the commander could evacuate the factory. I pointed toward a group of soldiers moving slowly behind the front line. That was their command post. If I hit them there, they'd have to pull troops back to protect their officers. Luo Daju looked at where I was pointing. It wasn't as grand as Sakata's old headquarters, but it was definitely their brain center. He looked at me, then at my Czech ZB-26 light machine gun. He knew how accurate I was. Can you handle it alone? He asked. I patted my gun and smiled. The ZB-26 was a nightmare for the Japanese. Better range, better fire rate, and in my hands, it was lethal. With no time to argue, he gripped my shoulder and told me to stay alive. I watched them move out. Thanks to the gene serum, my body felt twice as strong as a normal man's. With my eagle eye and master firearms skills, I wasn't worried. The Japanese were the ones who should be scared. Luo Daju's team opened fire first. They caught a few scouts off guard, but the Japanese reacted instantly, hitting the dirt and pinning our guys down with heavy fire. Luo Daju yelled for them to throw grenades. A dozen explosions rocked the Japanese line, turning several of them into a bloody mess. Our guys managed to push forward another 30 meters, but then a swarm of Japanese soldiers closed in. 3 of our men were hit and fell into the mud. A Japanese lieutenant waved his sword, screaming for a charge to wipe them out. My heart hammered against my ribs. They were pinned. I had to move. I moved like a predator, staying low and sprinting toward the right flank. I was fast, faster than any soldier I'd ever seen. While everyone was distracted by Luo Daju's diversion, I crawled into position 300 meters away from Watanabe's command post. I activated Eagle Eye. The world sharpened. I saw the radios, the maps, and the circle of guards around the major. I took a deep breath, switched my ZB-26 to short bursts, and squeezed the trigger. The gun kicked against my shoulder. 3 rounds screamed through the air. 300 meters away, 2 guards' heads literally exploded. Before the others could even process the blood on their faces, I fired again. Pop, pop, pop. 7 or 8 more guards went down, their skulls shattered by my precision fire. One soldier tried to scream a warning, but a bullet caught him mid-shout, spraying his brains across Major Watanabe's face. The warm, metallic scent of blood filled the air. Major Watanabe was so terrified he lost his footing, collapsing into the mud with a heavy thud. Just as he hit the ground, a soldier with a shattered face fell right on top of him. They were nose to nose, the living staring into the hollow eyes of the dead. Watanabe let out a strangled cry, tears of pure terror streaming down his face. Pop, pop, pop. The rhythmic execution continued. One by one, guards around the major had their heads turned into red mist, falling like dominoes. Watanabe scrambled backward, screaming at the top of his lungs. Where is he? Where is the enemy? A soldier crawled toward him, his voice trembling with panic. Sir, there's a sniper on our right flank. He's incredible. He's already taken out 20 of our men. Watanabe's eyes nearly bulged out of his skull. 20? You mean? No, sir. 30 now. He's killing everyone. The soldier shrieked, looking around at the mounting pile of corpses. What kind of marksmanship is this? Watanabe roared, his fear turning into desperate rage. He's treating us like target practice. How did he get this close without anyone noticing? Sir, we have to kill him now. The soldier yelled over the gunfire. He's too close, and he doesn't miss. The third company, Watanabe barked. Order the third company to turn back and eliminate him immediately. Forget the prisoners. Protect the command post. The order was relayed instantly. The third company hadn't moved far yet. Their commander turned his head and felt his heart stop. From his perspective, the command post looked like a graveyard. He couldn't see anyone standing. "Where is the enemy?" the captain screamed. A soldier pointed toward my position. I had already stopped firing and was sprinting forward, closing the gap. I needed to get closer to ensure maximum lethality. If I stayed too far back, they could just hug the dirt and I'd lose my angles. The Japanese captain stared at me in disbelief. One man is dismantling our entire command staff. His lip twitched. He raised his sword, screaming at the top of his lungs. "Turn back. Save the major. Kill him." Over 200 soldiers pivoted, charging toward me like a tidal wave. Two Type 92 heavy machine guns opened up, spraying lead in my direction. I hit the deck instantly. Bullets chewed up the dirt in front of me, but I just leaned into my stock and smiled. "Perfect," I whispered. "Keep the experience points coming." I lined up my sights on the first machine gunner. Pop, pop, pop. 3 rounds, 2 dead gunners. I shifted my aim. Another burst. The second machine gun crew slumped over their weapon, brains painted across the metal. The charging infantry were dropping in clusters. I fired with a cold, steady rhythm. I had picked a perfect blind spot. Their return fire was hitting the rise in front of me, while my eagle eye allowed me to pick them off with surgical precision. By the time I clicked empty on my first magazine, 18 more Japanese soldiers were dead. I swapped mags in a blur and kept the lead flying. In the distance, Luo Daju and his men were frozen, their jaws literally dropping. "My God," Luo Daju muttered, his mouth hanging wide open. "Since when was Lin Feng this much of a monster?" "Lieutenant," one of his men shouted, excitement breaking through the shock. "The Japs are ignoring us. They're all turning toward Lin Feng." Luo Daju snapped out of it. He realized the pressure was gone. The path in front of them was clear. He felt a surge of pride, followed by a flicker of annoyance. "Those bastards think they can just ignore us? Don't let Lin Feng have all the fun. Charge. Hit them from behind." The guerrillas leaped up, screaming as they closed the distance. They unleashed a volley that caught the Japanese in the rear, sending several more tumbling into the mud. The Japanese captain was losing his mind. "Shameless cowards. They're attacking from behind. Send a squad to hold them off." He turned back to face me, and his blood ran cold. In the few seconds he'd been distracted, another 20 of his men had fallen. Every single one of them had a whole dead center in their forehead. "How?" the captain stammered. "How is he using a light machine gun like a sniper rifle? He isn't wasting a single bullet." "Sir, we can't get close," a soldier cried out, retreating in terror. "It's a suicide mission. We can't reach him." "Idiots. Use the grenade launchers. Blow him up." "We can't get in range, sir. He kills the grenadiers before they can even set up." The captain's face went pale. "The mortars? Where are the field guns?" The soldier pointed toward the rear of the command post. "Look for yourself, sir." The captain looked. The artillery positions were silent. The crews were slumped over their cannons, motionless. It looked like a cemetery. He finally understood why the big guns had been quiet. I had already cleared them out. "This man," the captain whispered, his voice trembling. "Is he even human?" Pop, pop, pop. 2 more soldiers fell into the mud, their skulls shattered. 2 others nearby tried to crouch lower, their knees hitting the ground, but it didn't save them. A second later, they were thrown backward by the force of my bullets. The captain felt a sharp, throbbing pain in his temples. Half of his company was gone. In a situation like this, the only answer was suppressive artillery, but I had taken that away from them. "Spread out," he screamed, desperation cracking his voice. "Spread out and charge. If we don't kill him, the major dies, and we all die anyway." The Japanese soldiers, driven by their brutal discipline, scattered and kept coming. But to me, they were just moving targets. I was one with the gun now. I shifted the barrel, squeezed the trigger, and swapped magazines before the empty one even hit the ground. 176, 177, 178. I counted the kills under my breath. It felt like an old arcade game I used to play, only the stakes were real and the adrenaline was 1,000 times stronger. Back at the command post, Watanabe was losing his mind. Where is the third company? Why is that man still firing? A staff officer risked a glance over the edge of a foxhole. He turned back with a face as white as a sheet. Sir, the third company is charging, but more than half of them are already dead. Watanabe's eyes went wide. Half? In minutes? That's impossible. It was true. My bullets were finding their marks with terrifying precision. My subordinates were panicking, their voices trembling as they reported the nightmare unfolding. Our artillery was gone. I had personally wiped them all out. There was no one left to provide cover fire, and there was no way to shell my position. Watanabe was drenched in a cold sweat. He risked a peek over the edge of his cover and immediately ducked back down. He had just watched several of his men's heads burst like ripe melons. They were crawling in the mud, staying as low as possible, but it didn't matter. I was still picking them off one by one. Fast! Get them back! Watanabe screamed, his voice cracking. Call everyone back. Now! But sir, an officer stammered. They've already surrounded the prisoner camp. They're ready to launch the final assault. Watanabe turned on him, spitting as he yelled. Idiot! I'm about to die? Who cares about Li Yunlong right now? Do you want to trade my life for his? The officer shook his head frantically. No, sir. Your life is the most important. Watanabe slapped him across the face. Then call them back. Kill this monster first. We can deal with Li Yunlong later. He's not going anywhere. Yes, sir. Asterisk pop. 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 Asterisk several signal flares shot into the sky, exploding into clusters of angry red fire. At the prisoner camp, the Japanese soldiers who were seconds away from charging stopped in their tracks. They all looked back at the flares. Sir, something is wrong, a Japanese captain shouted. Our headquarters is under attack. What? A mid-level commander spun around, staring at the distant command post in shock. Those damn guerrillas. Their reinforcements must be here. Everyone, turn around. Save the major. In an instant, the entire force surrounding the camp abandoned their positions. They sprinted back toward the headquarters. Inside the camp, Li Yunlong felt the pressure vanish. The constant hammering of gunfire had suddenly stopped. He looked around, confused. What's going on? Did they retreat? A soldier peered over the wall and started clapping. Commander, they're gone. They're all heading back. Back? Li Yunlong was baffled. They're giving up? My head is worth 100,000 silver coins. They're just going to leave it here. Commander, look, a soldier shouted, pointing toward the headquarters. There's a massive fight breaking out over there. They're going back to save their boss. Li Yunlong raised his binoculars. He saw Japanese soldiers falling one after another. Then, he spotted a flash of muzzle fire coming from a single position. It was relentless. It's Lin Feng, Li Yunlong whispered, his face filled with shock. I told him to distract them. I didn't tell him to take on a whole battalion by himself. The deputy manager ran up, breathless and excited. Commander, we're ready. We can move the supplies and leave now. Li Yunlong looked at him and gave a grim smile. Good. You go ahead. The deputy froze. And you? Didn't you see? The enemy just showed us their backs. Li Yunlong laughed. My man is drawing all their fire. This is the perfect chance to hit them hard. The deputy manager gasped. What? You sent Lin Feng to do that? How many people did you give him? Li Yunlong laughed even louder. To be precise, it's just one man. The deputy's jaw dropped. One man? He's surrounding a whole battalion by himself. Li Yunlong slapped the deputy on the shoulder. I'm putting you in charge. Get the prisoners and the supplies out of here. That's your responsibility. If you lose those goods, I'll have you shot. Understand? Wait, the deputy cried. Isn't that your job? Why are you giving it to me? Because I'm going to go stab them in the rear. Li Yunlong growled. I'm buying you time. Move. But the headquarters sent an order, the deputy pleaded. They said no attacking. You have to. Headquarters doesn't know anything right now. Li Yunlong snapped. The situation has changed. Even if they were standing right in front of me, I'd still charge. We have to hit them so hard they're too scared to follow us. That's the only way you stay safe. Move out. Li Yunlong didn't wait for a reply. He turned to his men. Everyone, follow me. Charge. Let's go get our boy back. The soldiers roared and followed Li Yunlong as they sprinted out of the camp. The deputy manager stood there for a second, stunned. An assistant walked up. Sir? Do we leave or not? Of course we leave, the deputy snapped, taking a deep breath. Get the workers to move the supplies. Anyone who can hold a gun, follow me. We can't let the commander charge in alone. A few minutes later, Li Yunlong's group slammed into the rear of the Japanese column. He had been suppressed for too long, and now he let loose. Fire. Give it everything you've got. The Japanese were caught completely off guard. Their backs were turned, and they never expected the prisoners to come charging out. 20 soldiers were cut down in the first volley. Block them, a Japanese captain screamed. Leave a squad to hold them off. The rest of you, keep moving toward the headquarters. Not far away, Luo Dezhu saw the massive wave of Japanese soldiers rushing toward my position. He wasn't scared. He was hyped. Brothers, we did it. We drew them all away. The commander is safe, he yelled. Get your grenades ready. Blow them sky high when they get close. Then we vanish. Sir, one of his soldiers asked. What about Lin Feng? Luo Dezhu looked toward my spot and smiled. Don't worry. He's not stupid. Hill. He stopped mid-sentence. He saw something black fly out from my position. It moved fast, arching through the air over a distance of 100 meters, landing right in the middle of the charging soldiers. Boom. The explosion tossed bodies into the air. Holy crap. Luo Dezhu's jaw hit the floor. How did he throw it that far? But what happened next was even crazier. I didn't retreat. Instead, I grabbed my gun and ran 40 meters closer to Watanabe's command post. Is he insane? Luo Dezhu's voice cracked. He screamed at the top of his lungs. Lin Feng, get your ass back here. They're right on top of you. Do you want to die? I didn't answer. I reached for another grenade. I felt the surge of power in my arm. My physical stats were nearly double that of a normal human. I wasn't just a soldier anymore. I was a human mortar. I launched the grenade. It flew a staggering 150 meters, landing with pinpoint accuracy right next to Watanabe's hiding spot. Boom. Dust and fire erupted. Several soldiers guarding the major were blown away. Luo Dezhu and his men were paralyzed with shock. 150 meters? How is that even physically possible? I didn't stop. I stood up and sprinted another 30 meters forward. Watanabe, ears ringing and covered in dirt, looked up just in time to see me charging straight at him. He looked like he was about to burst into tears. He's coming. He's coming for me. Watanabe shrieked. Get me out of here. Now. His guards grabbed him by the arms and started dragging him back. But then, the sky seemed to rain grenades. I was hurling them one after another. A dozen explosions turned the headquarters into a sea of fire. Watanabe was thrown through the air by a massive shockwave. He hit the ground hard. Sir, are you okay? 2 wounded guards crawled toward him. Watanabe's head was spinning. He shook it violently, trying to clear the stars from his vision. He didn't look like a proud major anymore. He looked like a terrified animal. Run, he whimpered. Just run. 2 Japanese soldiers rushed forward, grabbing Major Watanabe by the arms to drag him away. They hadn't even taken 2 steps when 2 bullets whistled through the air. Both guards took direct hits to the head. Their skulls shattered, spraying warm blood and bits of brain matter directly onto Watanabe's face. The smell of iron and the heat of the blood broke him. The great major didn't care about his dignity anymore. He collapsed and started crawling on all fours like a terrified dog, screaming at the top of his lungs. Save me. Someone save me. I watched him through my sights from a distance. I shifted my aim away from his head. I didn't want him dead just yet. I aimed lower, focusing on his backside, and a cold smirk pulled at my lips. I squeezed the trigger. The bullet screamed out of the chamber. It found its mark with surgical precision. Watanabe's mouth popped open in a perfect O shape. A split second later, the pain hit him, and tears sprayed from his eyes. At 100 meters, my Czech light machine gun was a monster. It could punch through thick dirt walls with ease. When a round like that hits a human body, it tumbles and spins, shredding muscle and shattering bone into a jagged mess. It felt like a red-hot branding iron was being pressed into his flesh without stopping. Bang! I fired again. I hit his other side, making it perfectly symmetrical. Watanabe's voice went hoarse from screaming. He looked back at his men, his face a mask of tears and agony. Help me. Please help me. A few soldiers nearby saw the state of their commander and froze. They were too terrified to run into my line of fire. They just shouted back from cover. "Sir, we're going to get help. Just hold on. The main force is coming." Then, to my disbelief, those cowards actually turned and crawled away, leaving their leader behind. Watanabe was livid. "Bastards, come back. I'll have your heads for this." The fleeing soldiers started screaming to the rest of the battalion. "Major Watanabe is dying. We need reinforcements. Save the major." The Japanese troops rushing toward the scene saw the smoke rising from their destroyed headquarters and heard the frantic cries. Their faces turned pale with fear. They broke into a full sprint, desperate to reach him. I saw the swarm of enemies approaching. Since their mortars were already taken out, they couldn't touch me as long as I kept them more than 150 meters away. I swung my barrel toward the reinforcements and let out a long, rhythmic burst. The muzzle flashed, and soldiers dropped one by one. Behind me, Li Yunlong had finished wiping out the last of the resistance in the rear. He saw the chaos I was causing and let out a roar of excitement. "Brothers, charge! Kill them all!" 5 kilometers away, the 358th Regiment was pushing hard toward our position. Colonel Chu Yunfei sat high on his horse, urging his men forward. He had heard the reports of the Japanese attack and was moving as fast as possible to save Li Yunlong. "Pick up the pace," Chu Yunfei shouted. "The Japanese are slaughtering our people. Every second counts." Suddenly, a scout came galloping back, his face flushed with panic. He skidded to a halt and saluted. "Colonel, the 8th Route Army, over there." Chu Yunfei's heart sank. "What happened? Were they wiped out?" The scout shook his head, looking confused. "No, sir. They weren't wiped out. They've surrounded the Japanese." Chu Yunfei stared at him, his eyes bulging. "Are you pulling my leg?" He reached down, grabbed the scout by his collar, and yanked him close. "Look at me. You're telling me a bunch of laborers from a supply camp surrounded a full Japanese battalion? Do I look like an idiot to you?" "Colonel, I swear on my life," the scout cried. "I watched for a long time to make sure. The Japanese are in total chaos. Li Yunlong is actually winning." Chu Yunfei let go, stunned. His chief of staff, Fong Ligong, leaned in. "Colonel, Li Yunlong is a strange man. He doesn't follow the rules of war. If he could take down the Sakata regiment, maybe he really did pull off another miracle." Chu Yunfei's lip twitched. He had rushed here to play the hero and save his friend, only to find out the victim was currently hunting the predators. "I have to see this for myself," Chu Yunfei said, digging his spurs into his horse. "I won't believe it until I see Li Yunlong leading a pack of tailors and cooks to surround a major." Meanwhile, our own reinforcements were also closing in. The brigade commander was leading the 772nd and Independent Regiments personally. He was under strict orders to save the camp at all costs. Without the winter uniforms stored there, the troops would freeze to death before the first snow even fell. "Faster," the commander barked. "Time is life." Kong Jie rode up beside him, his expression grim. "Commander, we're 4 kilometers out. I can hear the cannons. It sounds like a bloodbath over there." The commander's eyes flared with anger. "That damn Li Yunlong. I told him to retreat, and he picks a fight instead. If he loses that camp, I'll have him shot 100 times. Kong Jie tried to defend his old friend. "Commander, old Li knows what's at stake. He's probably just pinned down and can't get out. You know his temper better than anyone," the commander snorted. "He sees a Japanese uniform and forgets everything else." Kong Jie nodded silently, praying in his heart. "Old Li, you better still be breathing when I get there. Don't you dare die on me. Back on the ridge, my machine gun continued to bark. I kept the rhythm steady, firing short, lethal bursts into the charging enemy. One by one, the Japanese fell into the dirt, unable to get close enough to fight back. I didn't give them a second to breathe. Every time a Japanese soldier poked his head up, I put a bullet through it. Within seconds, a dozen of them were dead, their bodies slumped in the dirt. The rest were terrified. They scrambled to the ground, pressing their faces into the mud, hoping I couldn't see them. I let out a cold laugh. Did they really think lying flat would save them? I held the high ground. From my position, I was looking straight down at their backs. I adjusted my aim slightly, staying tucked behind my cover. For a normal shooter, hitting anything from this angle without looking would be impossible. But I wasn't normal. I just needed one glance to lock in their coordinates. After that, I could fire blind and still hit the mark. At this distance, my accuracy was absolute. Bang, bang, bang. I squeezed the trigger rhythmically. One by one, the soldiers pinned to the ground were nailed into the earth by my bullets. 2 full squads were wiped out in a heartbeat, leaving only a handful of survivors shivering in the dust. The 2 Japanese company commanders realized their rescue mission was failing. Behind them, the roar of battle was getting louder. They turned and saw Li Yunlong. He was leading his men like a whirlwind, tearing through their rear lines. One of the commanders looked like his eyes were about to burst with rage. "We all go together," he screamed. "Forget tactics. There are only a few of them. If we charge, he can't kill us all, no matter how good his aim is. Save Major Watanabe and retreat immediately." The other commander hesitated, but he knew they were beat. They had already lost a third of their men, and their battalion leader was bleeding out. Saving Watanabe was their only hope of escaping a court-martial. They gave the order, and every remaining soldier rose up for a desperate, final charge. "They're all coming," Luo Deju shouted from behind a trench. He sounded both terrified and ecstatic. "Brothers, we can't let Lin Feng do all the work. It's our turn." The soldiers around him nodded fiercely. They had made it this far because of me. Ever since I blew up the headquarters, they barely had to pull their triggers. Now, with a wave of enemies rushing them, they were hungry for action. "Fire!" Luo Deju roared. A wall of lead erupted from their line. At the same time, I felt a surge of adrenaline. I wasn't afraid of them all coming at once. I was only afraid they would run away. "Coming to me? Fine," I whispered. "I'll send you all home together." I stopped firing short bursts and held the trigger down. The machine gun sang a continuous, lethal song. Da-da-da-da. The charging soldiers dropped like wheat before a scythe. They fell in neat rows right in front of Watanabe's wide, tear-filled eyes. The major looked utterly broken. "What did I do to deserve this?" Watanabe sobbed, his voice thick with despair. "I knew Li Yunlong was here. Why didn't I wait for reinforcements? I'm a fool. A complete fool." On the other side of the field, Li Yunlong was covered in blood. He was a man possessed, firing his gun and sprinting toward the enemy. His men were just as fired up. I watched one soldier get stabbed twice by a bayonet, only to lunge forward and rip the Japanese soldier's throat out with his teeth. Others, out of ammo, pulled the pins on their grenades and threw themselves into enemy clusters. The Japanese claimed to have the warrior spirit, but faced with men who truly didn't care if they lived or died, they broke. Their rear line collapsed into pure chaos. Li Yunlong snatched up a discarded light machine gun and mowed down the fleers. "Commander," the deputy manager panted, catching up to him. "Should we push toward that side?" He pointed toward the dip where Watanabe was trapped. Li Yunlong squinted at the spot. He saw the Japanese throwing wave after wave of men at that single point, yet not one of them could get within 5 meters of the target. "Tell everyone to follow me," Li Yunlong bellowed. "We'll pinch them from both sides and wipe every last one of them out." The order went out, and the roar of "kill" shook the air. Li Yunlong led the charge, screaming at the top of his lungs. The Japanese commanders were caught in a nightmare. They never expected the men they had been suppressing to turn into demons. "Block them. Don't let them close," a commander shrieked. It was too late. Li Yunlong was already among them. He held his machine gun at the hip, spraying lead without mercy. "I'm sending you back to your ancestors," he yelled over the noise. A kilometer away, on a high ridge, Chu Yunfei stood frozen. He held his binoculars to his eyes, his jaw literally dropping. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. The Japanese, an elite force, were being slaughtered. "How is this possible?" his aide, Sun Ming, asked in a trembling voice. "I've been a soldier for years, and I've never seen anything like this." The chief of staff, Fong Ligong, swallowed hard. "Look over there, on the high ground. It's that machine gunner." Chu Yunfei swung his binoculars toward me. He watched as I picked off targets with terrifying precision. "One man," Sun Ming gasped, his pupils dilating. "He did all this by himself?" "There's no one else," Chu Yunfei said, his voice laced with a mixture of awe and intense jealousy. "That's the only heavy fire point they have. He isn't just spraying. He's treating that machine gun like a sniper rifle. One bullet, one life." Chu Yunfei sighed, lowering his glasses. Li Yunlong always seemed to find the best talents. Should we go down there, Colonel? Sun Ming asked. And do what? Chu Yunfei snapped. Our main force isn't here yet. Those men have seen too much blood today. If we go down now, they might kill us just out of habit. We came all this way just to watch a performance. It's embarrassing. 10 minutes later, the silence returned, broken only by the crackle of fires. I climbed down from my perch and walked over to Watanabe. The major was dead. He had bled out, his eyes staring blankly at the sky, filled with a final, lingering resentment. In your next life, I muttered, looking down at him, don't come back as an invader, or this is exactly how you'll end up again. Suddenly, a familiar mechanical chime rang in my head. Asterisk ding. Congratulations, host, on completing your first major achievement. Asterisk. Asterisk rewards. 4098K rifles with 2,000 rounds of ammo. For Maxim heavy machine guns with 40,000 rounds. 6 Czech light machine guns with 40,000 rounds. 2 mortars with 100 shells. Asterisk. I looked at the carnage around me and smiled. This was just the beginning. The system wasn't done yet. Another chime echoed in my head, announcing a 75mm infantry gun and 50 shells. Then came the best part, a massive surge of special operations knowledge. Advanced tactics, terrain analysis, and guerrilla warfare techniques flooded my mind. It felt like my brain was being rewired in real time. I felt like a god of war. At this rate, the invaders wouldn't just be defeated, they'd be running back home in tears. I looked down and noticed the katana clutched in Watanabe's dead hand. On the hilt, there was a shimmering golden chrysanthemum. My heart skipped a beat. That was the symbol of the Japanese imperial family. Most imperial gift swords were standard issue, but this one was different. The mark was embroidered with fine gold thread, and the craftsmanship was elite. Watanabe wasn't just a commander. He was royalty or a top-tier war hero. I grinned and slid the blade into its sheath. This was a hell of a trophy. Lin Feng. I turned to see Li Yunlong sprinting toward me, his face split by a massive grin. Before I could even greet him, he wrapped his arms around me and spun me in a circle. He was laughing like a madman. He finally set me down and punched my shoulder, his eyes gleaming with excitement. He told me he had no idea I was such a crack shot. He called me a hidden master. I just shrugged and made up a quick excuse. I told him I'd spent my time in the prisoner camp visualizing shots and studying ballistics. He bought it instantly. He patted my back and promised me a massive reward for saving the day. Just then, a guard came running up, panting for breath. He reported that our main reinforcement force had finally arrived. Li Yunlong's ego inflated instantly. He joked that if they had waited any longer, they'd only be here to pick up our corpses. But then his expression shifted. He asked who was leading the column. When the guard mentioned it was his old boss, Brigadier Chun, Li Yunlong nearly jumped out of his skin. The living bandit is here? Li Yunlong hissed, his voice trembling with genuine fear. Quick, everyone, hide the good gear. Hide the heavy machine guns. If that old man sees them, he'll strip us bare. I watched as my commander scrambled around like a panicked thief. It was hilarious. Only one man in the world could make the legendary Li Yunlong act like a scared rabbit. While we were hiding our loot, I didn't realize that Colonel Chu Yunfei was still watching us from the distant ridge. He lowered his binoculars, his face pale and complex. He had only seen the tail end of the fight, but it was enough to shake him to his core. He told his adjutant, Fong Ligong, that he wouldn't have believed it if he hadn't seen it with his own eyes. A small group of ragtag soldiers had annihilated an elite Japanese battalion. He was particularly obsessed with me. He told his men that I didn't just fire a machine gun. I treated it like a sniper rifle. He ordered Fong Ligong to find out everything about me. He wanted me in his army, no matter the cost. 10 minutes later, the main army marched into the camp. Smoke was still rising from the ruins. Dead Japanese soldiers littered the ground as far as the eye could see. My fellow prisoners were already busy stripping the bodies for boots and ammunition. Brigadier Chun and Kong Jie stood at the entrance, staring at the carnage in total silence. Chun rubbed his eyes, then slapped his own forehead to make sure he wasn't dreaming. He asked Kong Jie if another unit had arrived before them. Kong Jie just shook his head, looking just as confused. Nobody should have been faster than them. Li Yunlong's booming laughter broke the silence. He walked up to the brigadier, looking incredibly smug. He asked why they were so late, and joked that the bodies were already cold. Chen looked at the piles of dead invaders, and then back at Li Yunlong. He didn't believe it. He accused Li of bragging, saying there was no way a group of prisoners took down Watanabe's elite unit. Watanabe was a royal relative, and his men were the best of the best. Chen was getting frustrated. He had pushed his men to the limit to get here, only to find the sewing circle of the prisoner camp had already won the war. He demanded to know who really did the fighting. Li Yunlong put on a look of pure innocence. He told the brigadier that he never lied and invited him to search the woods for other troops. There was no one else. Just us. Li started boasting again, calling himself a natural-born hero who could beat the enemy single-handedly. Chun and Kong Jia looked like they were about to have a stroke. They knew Li was full of it, but the proof was rotting on the ground right in front of them. Chen coughed, trying to regain his composure, and got straight to the point. He knew something special had happened here, and he wasn't leaving until he found out what. It didn't matter where I went. Trouble always seemed to follow. I was supposed to be managing a prisoner camp, not starting a small-scale war. Brigadier Chen looked at me with a mix of fury and relief. He told me that since I had won, he'd let it slide, but if I had lost, he would have dealt with me personally. He ordered us to clean up the battlefield and evacuate immediately. The Japanese main force could arrive at any moment. I hid in a smirk as we moved. I knew Chen well. Before he arrived, I made sure to hide all the high-quality weapons we had scavenged. If I hadn't, he would have confiscated the lot of them. I didn't plan on staying in a prisoner camp forever. I wanted back on the front lines, and when that day came, I was going to need every one of those guns. 10 minutes later, news of the battle reached headquarters. When the deputy commander heard the report from the chief of staff, he went silent. His eyes nearly popped out of his head. An entire Japanese battalion, led by Watanabe himself, had been wiped out by a group of prisoners. He stared at the chief of staff, asking which idiot had sent back such fake intelligence. The chief of staff just gave a bitter smile. He explained that Brigadier Chen had seen the bodies with his own eyes. The deputy commander swallowed hard. He knew Li Yunlong liked to brag, but Chen was a straight shooter. If Chen said it happened, it happened. He admitted that Li was a natural talent for war, managing to turn a group of laborers into a lethal fighting force. The chief of staff suggested it might be time to reward me. The deputy commander started to nod, but then he pictured my smug face. He snorted and changed his mind. He said there would be no reward for a man who ignored orders and abandoned his post to go hunting. He ordered me to get my tail over to headquarters immediately for a lecture. The chief of staff just smiled, knowing the commander was all bark and no bite. Deep down, the old man was impressed. Meanwhile, Japanese reinforcements finally reached the camp. The scene was a nightmare. There was nothing left but piles of Japanese corpses. The commanding officer looked around in shock. It looked like the Watanabe battalion had walked into a massive trap. A scout ran up, breathless, reporting that there were no survivors. The officer's eyes burned with rage. He screamed for a report to be sent to high command immediately. Back at the Japanese regional HQ, General Yoshio was playing chess with Colonel Yamamoto. He was feeling relaxed, laughing as he took Yamamoto's piece. He told Yamamoto that while his special forces theories were impressive, the region was peaceful and under total control. He promised to give Yamamoto more prisoners to train with since there was no real fighting to be done. Just then, an aide burst in, trembling. He blurted out that the Watanabe battalion had been annihilated. Yoshio jumped out of his chair, his face turning red. He had just finished saying how safe the area was. To make matters worse, Watanabe had royal connections. Yoshio was going to have a lot of explaining to do to his superiors. When he found out I was the one responsible, the same man who had killed Colonel Sakata, he lost it. He ordered every officer above the rank of company commander to assemble. He screamed for the Air Force to launch immediate strikes and for all frontline units to attack. He wanted to show us that the Imperial Army still owned this land. A day later, I had moved the camp over 100 kilometers into the heart of the Lus Plateau. Once we settled into a small village, the summons arrived. I had to go see the deputy commander. I decided to bring Lin Feng with me. I wasn't the type of man to steal someone else's glory. Lin Feng was the real reason we won. and I wanted him to get the credit he deserved in front of the big bosses. "Little Lin," I called out, grinning as he walked into my quarters. I told him we were heading to headquarters to collect our rewards. I was beaming, ready to show him off. But Lin Feng didn't look excited. He looked at me with a serious expression and asked if I was sure about that. My face fell. "I really thought I was going back to the front lines," I muttered. "Damn it." Lin Feng saw me spiraling and gave a small, knowing smirk. "Commander, don't panic. I have a plan to get you through this. Not only will you avoid trouble, but I can get you back into a combat unit." I grabbed his arm like he was a life raft in a storm. "Kid, why didn't you say so earlier? Tell me, if this works, I'll give you 2 pounds of my best sweet potato liquor." Lin Feng leaned in and whispered a plan into my ear. I listened, my eyebrows shooting up. "Are you sure? Will that actually work?" Lin Feng shrugged. "If you don't want to try it, fine. But pack your bags. You'll be lucky if they only send you to sweep stables in the middle of nowhere." I gritted my teeth, my mind racing. I didn't have many options. I stomped my foot. "Fine. We'll do it your way. Let's see if this works." 2 hours later, we arrived at headquarters. I told Lin Feng to wait outside. This wasn't my house. I couldn't just drag whoever I wanted into a high-level meeting without permission. I walked into the office, plastering a fake, cheeky grin on my face. "Old Chief, reporting for duty." I saluted. The deputy commander looked at me, his face darkening instantly. He let out a cold, sharp snort. "Li Yunlong, you really can't go a day without causing me a headache, can you? I sent you to a factory to keep you out of trouble, and you still managed to defy a direct order. I told you to hold your position and wait for reinforcements. Why didn't you listen? Do you think you're the only one who knows how to fight? Do you think we can't win without you?" He was getting worked up, his eyes practically spitting fire. I stood there, taking it. Lin Feng was right. This was an execution, not a celebration. I felt a new level of respect for that kid's intuition. "Discipline," the deputy commander roared, slamming his palm onto the desk. He stood up, towering over me. "What good is a soldier who can fight but won't follow orders? Sooner or later, your arrogance is going to get more men killed. You're a liability." The chief of staff saw things were getting out of hand. He coughed loudly, trying to de-escalate. He glared at me. "Li Yunlong, the deputy commander is only yelling because he cares. A soldier who won't obey is like a grasshopper in autumn. His days are numbered. Tell us, how should we punish you this time?" The deputy commander sat back down, huffing. He was giving me an opening to suggest my own penance. They thought they had me cornered, but they didn't know I came prepared. Lin Feng had predicted every single word of this. I took a deep breath and put on my most serious face. "Report. I was wrong. Even though we wiped out an entire Japanese battalion and captured an imperial gift sword from the emperor himself, it doesn't excuse my mistakes. I am ready for any punishment." I peeked at them. I wasn't sure if Lin Feng's bait would work. Suddenly, both the deputy commander and the chief of staff bolted upright. "An imperial gift sword?" The commander barked. "Where is it? Let me see." I felt a surge of relief. It was working. "It's right outside. I'll go get it." I sprinted out, grabbed the sword from my guard, and ran back in. I presented it with both hands. They snatched it away, examining it with the intensity of 2 jewelers. They traced the blade, the hilt, and the craftsmanship. "It's a masterpiece," the chief of staff whispered. "We've captured swords before, but nothing like this. This wasn't just some officer's blade. This is a family heirloom, or something gifted to the nobility." He pointed to a small golden chrysanthemum emblem. "This is real gold, the symbol of the imperial family. I heard Watanabe was connected to them. This proves it." The deputy commander nodded, his anger replaced by genuine excitement. "Capturing this is a massive psychological blow to the enemy. It's a symbol of their spirit. If we publicize this, it'll do wonders for our morale." The chief of staff smiled at me. "Well, with a contribution this big, maybe a heavy punishment isn't necessary." The deputy commander paused, then snorted. "The kid just got lucky. He's a blind cat that stumbled onto a dead mouse." He turned to me, his voice still stern but the fire gone from his eyes. "Don't get cocky. You still broke the rules. You must be punished." I was cheering inside. "Lin Feng, you genius." I cleared my throat. "Yes, sir. I agree. I must be punished. My suggestion? Send me to the front lines to build my own unit from scratch. Build your own unit? The commander asked, surprised. The factory lost many good men, I said solemnly. I have no other skills, so I must atone through combat. Give me 1 year. I guarantee I will build a reinforced regiment to make up for my mistakes. The commander's face soured again. A year? Li Yunlong, you've got some nerve. A baby can learn to walk in a year. No, you need a real punishment. A heavy one. I started to panic. Wait, if a year is too long, give me 9 months. 8, 7. You think you're at a street market haggling over prices? The commander shouted, slamming the desk. He looked at the chief of staff. What should we do with him? The chief of staff looked grim. He clearly hasn't learned his lesson. Maybe we should demote him further. Send him somewhere even more remote. I couldn't take it anymore. I remembered Lin Feng telling me to go big or go home. I held up 3 fingers and shouted, 3 months. Just give me 3 months. I'll give you a fully trained, reinforced regiment in 90 days. The room went silent. The deputy commander and the chief of staff shared a look, their eyes lighting up. The commander pointed a finger at me instantly. 3 months. You said it, Li Yunlong. No taking it back. I froze. I suddenly realized I had just jumped headfirst into a trap of my own making. I didn't care about the risk. All I could think about was getting back to the battlefield. I needed to get out of that factory and back to leading men. I nodded firmly. 3 months. I, Li Yunlong, give you my word. In 90 days, I'll have a reinforced regiment ready for action. The chief of staff stared at me like I had lost my mind. Do you think soldiers grow like grass? Where are you going to get the men? Where will the weapons and equipment come from? The deputy commander narrowed his eyes, clearly skeptical.